You carried the views. Well, you're lucky to have Nia and
Sam, after this episode, you had such a great time. We should bring Nia on next time. And,
yeah,
it'll be good.
I'm sure that is. When's Nia coming in?
Yeah.
Is Nia going to come on now?
I'm not sure she'll agree to that.
We can have Alex Jones on, and she can yell at Alex Jones. How does that sound?
Oh, man. She would not agree to come on the show at this point. Sorry.
That's disrespectful as hell. You couldn't just lie on the camera just for the show. Just say, yeah, she'll come on and then just ghost us like every normal person would do. Did you ever get dropped on your head as a kid or anything? Because I was dropped on mine. That's why I have a lot of my issues. Why do you think you have yours? Just because?
Because I have like a dent back here.
That's what I'm saying. You kind of have a dented head. You got a good head shape.
I'm so fly, I'm aligned with the planes. My grind so refined, I got no time for no games. Ask yourself why would I make time for you lames? At all costs, cause I'm a boss. But break them off, yeah, gotta break them off.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Primetime with Alex Stein. I'm your host, Alejandro Stein, and tonight's episode is going to be insane for the Ukraine because we have on MH370 Malaysian Airlines truther Ashton Forbes on to come and display the evidence that it was actually a demonic alien portal that sucked up that Malaysian Airlines Boeing craft, I believe. So that's going to get really spicy. But before we get into Ashton, we have to welcome on our in-studio guest, the one, the only, BlazeTV investigative journalist. Is that correct? Julio Rosas. Is that a good description?
I like to call myself more as a field reporter.
Field reporter, okay. I don't even.
Oh, Zilli, you're right there. Yeah, there we go.
I didn't know that. I didn't know what your proper title was, but we're happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Finally, on the blimp.
You are on the blimp, but with every guest, we have them sign a waiver for legal purposes, so you need to sign the waiver and read it out loud so that you know what you're agreeing to.
The entire thing?
Yes, please.
All right. So I, Julio Rosas, agree to participate in Prime Time with Alex Stein, Assumptions of Risks. I understand the show involves inherent risks of bodily injury, including but not limited to bruises, burns, beheading, and Alex taking off his pants for no reason. Release of liability. I hereby release a discharge and hold the harmless Blaze, Alex, and all of his producers except Jimmy. You can sue his you can sue his dumbass until the cows come home. I agreed not to punt any babies while the cameras are rolling, and because that's Planned Parenthood's job, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but I'm pumped. I love Julio already.
So you just
sign it, please.
I need, as a Marine, I need a crayon. That's your producer.
Now he's got all the jokes, dude. He's got all the Marine jokes. Why are Marines dumb? I thought Marines are.
Well, look, we go there, we take care of business, and then we come back home. I mean, some intelligence is required. Don't get me wrong, but we like our crayons.
How was the food in the Marines?
How was the food?
How's the food?
You know Seduxo?
What's Seduxo? No.
Seduxo is like that big cafeteria food.
The mess hall, isn't that what they call it?
Yeah, they serve Seduxo at the mess hall.
What's Seduxo though?
It's the company that provides the.
Oh, Cisco.
No, not Cisco.
There's another one.
There's another one. It's like Cisco.
It's like Cisco.
It's like Cisco, yeah.
So it's all this like pre-made stuff, like chicken fried steak patties and stuff like that.
Yeah, I will say one of my last duty stations was mainly Army Air Force. It was Army Air Force base outside DC. Mm-hmm. They make amazing breakfast omelets during the drill weekends. Yeah, that's what the taxpayers are paying for.
We love omelets here. I'm a big egg eater myself. So Julio, you made your name by saving the skin, the derriere of the one, the only Kyle Rittenhouse. Is that correct?
It wasn't just me.
No, it was mainly you. Please take credit. It was mainly you. And
well, I saw the second half. So there's the two halves.
So did you see him shoot the pedophile?
I did not see him shoot the pedophile. Oh. I did the video that you see of Rosenbaum, the pedophile, shouting "Shoot me, N-word."
Oh, that was yours?
That was mine. Yeah.
No, yes. Shoot me, N-word was your tape?
That was mine.
No, that's legendary.
Yeah. I was before I was watermarking my videos, but that and because. That was at the tail, because it was a minute-long video, and that was at the tail end. And I was literally right about to stop recording, because, but so I saw him do that. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then
Well, is it weird because you know that he died later that evening?
no. Well, no, it was weird because it was a white guy telling other white
saying
guys
the N-word, yeah.
saying the N-word at a BLM riot, and the BLMers, they obviously were like kind of wary about him.
Yeah, what was their reaction?
But they didn't do anything to him. They didn't say like, hey, you can't say that word or nothing, because they were mainly focused on like the armed civilians who were protecting the gas station. But so then like two hours later, after everything went down, people started replying to that video saying, oh, dude, that's the guy that got shot.
Wow.
And I had to hold off on it because I couldn't tell that it was Rosenbaum at first, because by the time he got shot for attacking Kyle,
Yes.
he had
Self-defense. Kyle's.
he wrapped his shirt around his face, so I couldn't. At first I couldn't tell.
You didn't know it was him.
I didn't know. I didn't know, and also because I didn't see him. Because like I said, I was at the second half of it. But so I will say it was very funny because I covered the trial in person in Kenosha the next year, and so it was very funny having his defense team come back and play that video over and over again, and it was cited a lot because it showed how aggressive Rosenbaum was being to everybody.
And that he was using racial slurs.
Yes, in honor of Jacob Blake, of course.
Rest in peace. All right. We have a clip of, this is not the N-word tape, but this is the actual shooting of the second guy. What was his name? He was.
It was Gage Grosskreutz, who got shot in the arm, and Anthony Huber was the skateboard dude.
So is this the skateboard dude?
This is the skateboard dude.
Yeah. Let's watch Anthony. Okay, so you're kind of far. Oh, it's right there. He falls on the ground. Wow.
That was it. But there's other gunshots here, and that's not Kyle.
Who were the other people shooting?
Just everybody. It was like the definition of a Mad Minute, where there was just a whole. I don't know. I don't. To this, people were just shooting wildly because Kyle only shot like 4 times in that video, and you hear like 10 shots. And then after that, I was walking down the street to get to the first scene, and there was about like another burst of 15 rounds. So it was a crazy night, and that's something that's not talked about a lot.
The shots, yeah, that you don't know who else fired them.
Yeah.
Did you stay on the scene after that, or did you say I'm good? Oh, well, how long did you stay on the scene after that? Hours? I mean, I probably would have gone to my hotel room if I'm being, honest.
It was probably about 2 hours, because the reason why I was walking down to the first scene because I was trying to link up with Shelby Telcott, who was with the Daily Caller at the time. Because
shout out Tucker Carlson, my biological stepfather, for starting the Daily Caller. Go ahead.
And Richie McGinnis, who was also at the Daily Caller at the time, he was the guy that was behind Rosenbaum when Rosenbaum charged Rittenhouse. So I was trying to get to Shelby, and we're trying to figure out where Richie was, because at that point he was talking to the police. And so we went to the hospital, which was right across the street from that first scene, because that's how small of a town Kenosha is. And we kind of waited outside the entrance because we were going to see if whether or not Richie was going to be done talking. But then some of like the BLMers also came to the hospital to check on the conditions of the people who were shot, and it was weird. It was really weird, and it was also kind of funny because my mom lived on the West Coast at the time, because this was around midnight.
Yeah.
Midnight, 1 o'clock Central. So the thought came to my head where I was like, oh, I should probably call my mom to let her know that I wasn't the one that got shot this night, because whenever I went somewhere, I would always tell her, like, hey, I'm going to this, just be aware. And
you only called your mom, you didn't call your abuelita or anybody?
No, well, because she was up at the time because of the time.
Where was your abuelita?
She was in Illinois, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she was closer.
Closer, yeah.
So she could have protected you better. So it probably would have been better to call her first.
Well, I mean, that's all relative, I think.
I just kind of feel bad for your abuelita. You're like in this horrible crisis, and you're getting shot at. You probably got shot at more in that than you did in the Marines.
It is kind of funny because I was in the reserves during the Trump years, so it was a little bit more of a peaceful time relative to what's happening now. But yeah, I've seen more action as my capacity as a reporter than I was. But also I wasn't in a combat MOS. I wasn't in a combat position. I was in logistics.
That's good. Did you see any transsexuals while you were in the Marines?
No.
There's no transgenders in the Marines?
Nope. Because again, this was the Trump DOD.
Damn, dude. I love Rachel Levine. Admiral Levine. I don't know why you laugh at that.
Is it Rear Admiral?
I think it is Rear Admiral.
I think
it is.
A little too on the nose, I think.
Well, they do that to mock us. Do you think that there's a global elite ruling us behind closed doors that are trying to subvert our happiness and ruin our lives and basically enslave us?
You know, I think it's funny because I think a lot of people want to put stock, and I'm not saying that there isn't any truth to this. They want to put into a stock that everything is planned out and executed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but I think as someone who was in a government agency, not just any like random cabinet, but you kind of see how government works,
Yeah.
and it's just filled with a bunch of morons.
I agree with that.
Like it's just it's incompetence, and because no one really knows what they're doing.
So you think it's the global elite would be too incompetent to run any of these psychological operations on?
No, because you have examples of MK Ultra.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a combination of both. But I think it's a little bit of an unpopular opinion. But I think just because, like for example, with the whole Anthony Fauci thing, where'd you come up with the 6 feet rule? It was like, oh, it just sort of appeared, right? But and that rule was used to justify all
Everywhere,
this.
yeah.
It was used to justify all this nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But when you drill down to it, it wasn't because like, oh, we're going to use this rule specifically to try to ruin the fabric of society. It's just it just kind of came up and they just ran with it.
Yeah, they just figured 6
So
feet.
I think it's just they don't know what they're doing, which makes them. That still makes them dangerous. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'm not saying that like therefore their intentions are muted, but I think it's also just a fact that there's some just people who are too idiotic to try to actually carry out a plan, because as you learn in the Marine Corps and in the military in general, the plans usually fall apart after first contact.
So you're a young man. Do you remember the terror attacks that happened on September 11th, 2001?
Barely. I was born in '96, so I was still fairly young. But the only really memories that I have from that day was watching CNN in the living room back when it was still watchable, and getting out of school earlier than usual, because I remember thinking that was weird.
Do you know what this is?
That is a box cutter. Yeah.
Did you know?
Are we trying to hijack the blimp right now? Or?
That's what I'm saying. It only takes a few of these box cutters to defeat the Marines. So do you feel kind of incompetent that you as a Marine couldn't stop 19 terrorists with this?
I think as a 6-year-old, I think that was, or a 5-year-old actually, that was a little bit beyond my purview.
Don't use age as an excuse.
Well, according to the Rainbow Mafia, age is just a number. So
Yeah. Would you like some orange?
I'm good. If you had one of those tangerines, I would have picked you. I would have taken you up on that.
Have you ever been to prison?
Well, I've been to Portland and Seattle, which is kind of like an open air prison these days. So I don't know if that counts.
Well, in prison, they make toilet wine with fruit.
Yeah.
Fermented fruit.
Yeah.
So do you like liquor?
Well, I barely know her, so I don't know. Oh, that was a juicy one.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little squirting action right there.
Real juicy. That's how I like them. Real juicy. But speaking of liquor, have you ever had Flying Ace's Spirit?
I have not. Why should I try it? I mean, I haven't heard of it. I'm more of a Lead Slinger's whiskey drinker myself.
If you like that nice, silky, just smooth taste of a nice, intoxicating beverage, Flying Ace Spirits is the best beverage that you can actually pour in your cup.
Why'd your voice get very quiet?
Well, because let me tell you about it.
Oh, okay.
Do you like alcohol?
I
Just say yes.
Okay, yeah.
Do you support the troops?
Uh,
Just say yes.
Sure, yeah. Why not? Yeah, let's just.
If you said yes to both of these, you'll love our next sponsor. It's a liquor that donates to Folds of Honor. Do you know what Folds of Honor is?
I actually do, yes.
Yeah, since 2007, Folds of Honor has provided life-changing scholarships to spouses and children of America's fallen or disabled in combat soldiers. And in 2023, this extended to include families of fallen first responders. They've awarded over 51,000 scholarships and more than $200 million so far. Can you believe that?
That's a good cause.
Very good. Flying Ace is aligned with Folds of Honor, which you know about, to ensure the children of our American heroes receive the education they deserve. As proud supporters of Folds of Honor, Flying Ace has had the privilege of providing hope for the families of those who protect our freedom, as well as providing scholarships. Go to flyingacespirits.com or go to the link in the description. When you purchase a bottle of Flying Ace, You'll also be donating to Folds of Honor. Make sure to use a promo code PRIMETIME and get free shipping on every order. That's flyingacespirits.com, promo code PRIMETIME. Yeah, so if you want to get drunk, you should order some of that.
Well, yeah, as long as it goes to a good cause.
Do you mainly drink cerveza, though?
Cerveza. Did you ask me that because I happen to be of a certain Latino descent?
Yeah, there's this guy. Yeah, why else would I ask that? Yeah, dude, what are you talking about?
I like sangria. I've been
So
on.
you telling me you don't like cerveza?
Bro,
You call yourself Hispanic?
no, I call myself American, and I also call myself Hispanic too.
Okay, good, dude. We love big booty Latinas. I'm the big booty Latina king, dude. We need some freaking. We love a Hispanic heritage. We're making this Hispanic Heritage Month on the blimp. Okay, Jimmy, write that down.
That's September through.
Got it.
It's weird. This is Hispanic Heritage Month. It's September into October because it's like starts on the 15th and ends on the 15th. It's very weird. I don't know why they do that.
What are we showing right now? Oh,
the big booty Latina. Yeah.
Yeah, that's her. Okay, so now we have an incredible guest, Julio.
Yes.
This man supposedly has exposed what really happened to Malaysian Airlines flight MH370. He's an expert in his field. Please welcome on the one and only Ashton Forbes. Ashton!
Hey, Alex, how's it going?
I'm doing okay. I've had better days. My ankle, I got bit by my neighbor's dog. I was trying to break into their house, and they have a dog.
Oh, that's not good. I'm glad to be on here with you, though, Alex. I can't believe I've had the opportunity to talk to you, Glenn Beck, Pat Unleashed, Keith on the mic. It's been quite the adventure.
Yeah, dude, you're on fire. I mean, your Twitter's blowing up. People really love your coverage. And before we even get into the Malaysian Airlines, we are going to get into it. But I was just watching your video on your Twitter about the free energy, and I love this idea. We had this guy, Dr. Parkenstein, on, who is a scientist.
Parkinson's?
Parkenstein.
Oh, okay.
Maybe put a $3 so Julio can break in a little bit. So he was talking about how he could transfer energy from Texas to Ohio, and he supposedly did it through the ground somehow. So tell us a little bit about this, because is this the conspiracy that Tesla wanted to give us free energy and then they figured out they couldn't bill us for it, so that's why they shut it down? Is that true in your opinion?
Yeah, and JP Morgan's the one who shut it down as well. So fun fact, like apparently Donald Trump's uncle is also somehow connected to it. And I only found out the free energy stuff through the investigation because I started looking at these videos that are out there that we're going to talk about. And then from there, I looked into the missing airliner. And from there, I looked into the science around what we're going to be seeing in these videos. And what it led to was this idea of free energy over unity, having a device that can produce more energy out than you can put in. So this is where, honestly, I was going to leave it to the end, but I want to say now that I'm actually just filed the paperwork for a new company that is going to be focused on producing over unity devices. I believe that absolutely it's real. I've signed an NDA with an entity out there that I haven't disclosed yet that has one such device, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, will that cause? Will that end global warming if we can create this machine? Will this help the climate change, as they say?
Yeah, there's a few big benefits. Like one of them is obviously green energy for the hippies out there, you know, that and the people that think that climate change is a scam. I think those people are going to be proven to be right because we can just get rid of it at any moment we need to. And then energy independence, you know, for the people who want to live off the grid, you know, go live out in the forest or whatever, you can have a device that you don't have to be on the grid anymore. People that are living in, you know, tornado alleys and stuff where like places are getting destroyed and their power goes out, that can help them as well. And then there can be cost savings as well. So if you live in an area where electricity is really expensive, you know, this device can, you know, cut down your power bill potentially to almost nothing.
We need some of that, dude.
Well, I think we should do it till after the election because we need the energy prices high so we can get Joe Biden out of office.
Do you think people are actually that smart? I think people are too stupid to even know that, you know, Joe Biden is causing inflation. I would say the average citizen doesn't even know.
Well, I mean, with the whole border crisis, when I posted the video of him saying that like Republicans are the ones not securing the border, people were pretty mad, which is good. So yeah. I mean, I think at least on these issues, I think people are understanding.
Ashton, you might not know Julio Rosas. He's best friends with Kyle Rittenhouse, and he actually helped him murder a pedophile.
I'm familiar with the drama around the case. I was just watching, and I mean, good work documenting it. I'm a big supporter of citizen journalism. I don't think that mainstream media does a good job at all. And when we talk about the plane, I think you're going to find out that they did a terrible job reporting on what happened in this plane, which it's going to be obvious, in my opinion, that the United States government is at fault for the disappearance of this plane. And the United States and all the media, Western media, basically just ran cover for them. And everybody just went, oh, yeah, we're going to, nod our heads when they give us a line of bullshit about what they think happened to it.
Well, before we get into your presentation, let's talk about what's the official government narrative story of this, that the pilot went rogue and locked the co-pilot out of the cockpit and then he just flew into the ocean. Is that the official story?
So actually, that's the funny thing, is that that's not even the official story. The official story, if you were to go read the official reports, is that they don't know what happened to the plane. It's just still a mystery to this day.
They just have no idea. They didn't even come up with the story to tell us.
They just said that the plane went missing. And this is the funny part, is that now we have this pilot suicide narrative that's slowly formed over years. And I would argue that this has been potentially a government, agency operation to get people to believe that it could possibly be a suicidal pilot, when there's actually absolutely no evidence whatsoever there was a suicidal pilot. The pilot's been ruled out by the officials. He had no issues whatsoever in his background. This simulator situation has been ruled out by the FBI and the officials as well, but somehow it still persists that he practiced this route when he clearly did not. And when it comes to a suicidal pilot, if you have a suicidal pilot, you just crash the plane. You don't go fly to the nearest airport that could accommodate a Boeing 777. You don't go fly by your hometown at 2 a.m. when it's pitch black out. You don't go on an 8-hour joyride. And what we're going to find out as well is that the pilot didn't even increase altitude to potentially knock all the passengers out. They actually reduced altitude, which would be the exact opposite thing you were going to be trying to do if you're trying to asphyxiate all the passengers on board the plane. So this is where, if people just use common sense, this doesn't require, you called me an expert, but I don't like the word expert, because I found that all these MH370 investigators, they call themselves experts, but they don't even use basic common sense. Anybody could have solved this if they just looked at the totality of the evidence and just applied common sense to it.
Okay, well, you have some information you want to share, so if we can set up the share screen and let's see if you can kind of run through what you have. And is he going to play the original video of the orbs of the plane disappearing, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm going to play everything, but I need you guys to set up the share screen capabilities once again on the Zoom. So while you're doing that,
might have to
it's not working at the moment.
Sorry,
I have stuff ready to go.
It reset after the test.
Oh, come on, Jimmy. Now you're giving us all our details. Here, show me on the screen, George, so people don't have to see us.
While we're setting that up as well, I want to say, too, that, the biggest thing is, first of all, to prove the lie related to this case. And we can show that the United States government knows what happened to this plane. We have radars that can see for thousands of miles. We have a satellite system that is mapping the whole globe persistently that would have seen a debris field in the ocean anywhere on the planet for days and days and days. And we have an acoustic system that heard that Titan sub pop off the coast or near the Titanic. This all should have been able to triangulate the location of the plane. We should have seen it. We should have been tracking it. And yet everybody ignores all this information. Planes simply cannot disappear in 2014. So we've really just been given this narrative out there that makes no sense whatsoever. And I'm going to show some evidence here that is, I think, going to wake people up to what really happened with this plane.
Could Amelia Earhart's plane have been swallowed up by an orb?
I don't know. People ask me about, what is it, Frederick Van something or other, and some of these other people, but yeah, I think we're good. I'm not an expert on, necessarily even orbs or anything like that. But, when it comes to this case, I would say that I have as much knowledge as anyone else. So in the interest of time, I'm going to be showing as much information as quick as I can. And if you guys want more information, I did post a link to all the evidence related to this case on my Twitter profile underneath the link to this.
There's a Google Doc with all of it, correct?
Yeah, there's a Google Doc. It's very long. And now here is the flight path. So this is, just because people don't understand, even the flight path of this plane's going from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing here. And when we get to this Agari waypoint is when it goes dark. Now, this is the part where the scenario that we put forth is a fire event, which I think is pretty obvious when you look at the flight path, because there was actually about 19 witnesses that corroborate this, including Mike McKay, who sees the plane start on fire right up here from an oil rig a couple hundred miles away. And he only sees it on fire for a few seconds. Contrary to popular belief, a plane can fly with a fire in the cargo bay. And this is related to about 487 pounds of lithium-ion batteries.
Oh, so that's what you think caused the fires? Because they were trying to hide that there was a shipment? I was looking at your information.
Yes.
They were trying to hide that there was a bunch of batteries on this plane?
Yeah, they were hiding it. They were lying about it. They didn't reveal it until March 22nd, which was 2 weeks later. And the reason to hide it is because everyone's going to immediately pinpoint the batteries in the fire event, especially when you look at this flight path. But when you hide it and you present this narrative of it going to the South Indian Ocean, then you can reveal the fact that there is these dangerous lithium-ion batteries on board. So these witnesses all see it. There's 9 people on the coast that hear this loud noises at the same time Mike McKay sees the plane on fire for a few seconds. The fire extinguishing devices would put out the fire very quickly, and then it would be a battle of trying to keep it out because these lithium-ion batteries just keep coming back up and up and up again. So after it turns around here, it goes to the nearest airport. Now, this turn was a manual turn back. And also,
how do they know it's a manual turn? And not that it's that important, but like, can they tell when the autopilot's on or off?
Yes,
okay,
they can, because they can tell the angle of the degree of the turn. So because the degree is so sharp, that had to be a manual turn back. And they were actually able to look at the radar data and confirm they did an emergency descent right after this as well, which is exactly what you would do in a fire event. You would depressurize the plane and you would fly low to give the passengers enough oxygen to be able to breathe. Now, this is a scenario because the fire extinguishing devices suck oxygen out of the plane. So the fire extinguishing devices are sucking the oxygen out of the plane. So you're flying low and you're trying to keep all the people alive, contrary to like flying very high where you would knock everybody out. Now, also 10 minutes after the plane goes dark, there's another communication from another Boeing 777 pilot that hears the pilots of MH370. Now, this is out there, but people just think that they lost contact at 1721. But we know for a fact 10 minutes later, there was another communication. There's also 8 fishermen on a boat that see the plane flying low 10 minutes later around the same time as that communication, which corroborates the turn back, corroborates the fact that they were flying low, and corroborates the fire scenario. Now, we also know that they probably hid communications from the public. The last communication that we have publicly is not the last communication, because the Malaysian Minister of Defense 7 weeks later does an interview. And he claims that they knew this plane was, it had gone dark, but they knew this plane was a commercial airliner that they were tracking on military radar, and they knew it wasn't hostile. But how could they know it's not hostile, especially if it's been hijacked or if it's a suicidal pilot? They should have been afraid that this plane was going to fly into the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur. But somehow they didn't even send up jets to track the plane, let alone shoot it down. This would indicate they knew it was a fire event, they knew it was an emergency event, and they knew they didn't need to send up jets to track it. It goes directly to Penang Airport. This is the closest airport that you would go to in an emergency event that you can land a Boeing 777. This is where the pilot's cell phone pings a cell tower. So we know they're flying low, potentially under 7,000 feet, for your cell phone here to be able to ping that cell tower. We don't know exactly why it didn't land. I've speculated that maybe it had too much fuel and it was overweight. Maybe they couldn't dump the fuel because they didn't have any power because of the fire. The batteries were actually in the forward cargo bay. And so then here, it goes past Penang, and then we don't know exactly why it goes here, but this is where it starts to head towards Catherine T., our last witness. And she sees this plane glowing orange with smoke coming out of the back of it, flying low with no navigation lights and descending from the same direction that the plane, everybody agrees it went to. And she sees it around 1840 UTC, which is 2:40 a.m. So it's about 50 minutes later than the plane flew over Penang. Now, at this point as well, this is the exact time where the day the plane disappeared, they claimed that Subang Air Traffic Control lost contact with the plane at 1840. It wasn't until days later that they changed it and said it actually lost contact at 1822, which you see here. This was supposedly the last radar communication, but we can actually prove that that's not true either. Now, the reason why Catherine T's sighting is important is that there's also a China Times only reported Mayday call that said it was at 2:43 a.m., which if you convert 2:43 a.m. to Malaysian time or from Malaysian time to UTC, it's 1843 UTC, which is just within minutes of Catherine T seeing the plane. That China Times reported Mayday says that the plane was disintegrating and attempting an emergency landing. The Western media didn't even pick up on it. So now this is what I wanted to show you, first of all, with the flight path. Now, to add on to this radar data, they say that 1822 is when they lost this radar data. So I'm going to switch over and show you now the... This is the radar data from the Royal Aeronautical Society. So they did a presentation in 2019. The yellow line is where supposedly they lost contact. There's at least 5 different radars that are in range of this plane after they lost contact. So there's 3 radars in Indonesia right here. You can see these green circles. There's a Thailand radar here in red, and then there's India's radar over here in red as well.
Looks like a Venn
All
diagram.
These would have been
almost.
tracking the plane.
It's covered by so many
it does look
radars.
a little bit like one. And so the question is, why have none of these countries said that they saw the plane or given any of their radar information away? Because the important part here is that this is the location where the narrative that you were saying earlier claims that this plane flew into the South Indian Ocean for 5 or 6 hours unimpeded and then supposedly crashed in the South Indian Ocean. The scenario that I put forth says that this simply never happened, that there was no flight into the South Indian Ocean at all. And that should make sense because we looked in the South Indian Ocean and we found nothing at all. We found no debris down the South Indian Ocean, no black boxes, no acoustic detections. There's no satellite data that says the plane went there except for some pings. Now, I think I have the pings up. Let me see. On one of these. Here it is. So these are the satellite pings. I actually went and looked at the raw data of the satellite pings. And there is hundreds of rows of data until you get to 1840 UTC, which if you look carefully, you can see on the left side of the screen. And then between 1840 UTC and 2313, there's only 10 rows of data. That's 5 hours of the plane flying with only 10 rows of data here.
So what does that mean?
And so to me, what this means is that people, the experts out there, the independent group that are out there have said, well, this data proves this plane went into the South Indian Ocean. I would say this is just 10 rows of data that's completely anomalous compared to all the data before and afterwards. I could add this 10 rows of data to this spreadsheet in a few minutes. Now, why this is important is this data wasn't publicly released until May 27th, 2014. This is 2.5 months after the plane disappeared. Why would they wait so long to release this data? And then you think, well, when did the South Indian Ocean narrative even form? They started the South Indian Ocean narrative on March 13th, 2014, which was 5 days after the plane disappeared. So you can imagine that if there's a cover-up at play here, they invented this narrative of going to the South Indian Ocean. And then they had to build some data up that could convince people that this is where it went. That's the only reason why you would hide the data. Otherwise, you should release this data the next day. There might be people out in the South Indian Ocean on a raft somewhere needing help or doing Gilligan's Island or doing a Lost that's out there. So the reason why this is super important is that because this data is how they interpreted where this plane went and exactly where the plane turned into the South Indian Ocean, we have coordinates in the satellite video I'm about to show you in the bottom left. Those coordinates indicate the Nicobar Islands where that Catherine T was on a boat there and sees this plane flying around her boat.
Well, let's see that. See the next video, though. I mean, we're just looking at these numbers. I want to see. When does the orbs come in? When does it get sucked up, Ashton?
Okay, you ready for some orb videos? Okay.
Well, no, I like this story, but I'm saying so, and we're going with the narrative. No, I'm not even trying to rush you. I'm just saying we know it has pings, so we think that they fake those pings so they can create a narrative that it is in the South Indian Ocean. But what happened? What do you think happened?
Yeah, so I think that what we see in these videos is what happened. As hard as it is to believe here, I think the United States government has gravity and space-time manipulation technology. Like literally, not just anti-gravity, which is if you talk to these UFO people, who I'm not a big fan of in general, they'd be like, yeah, we've got anti-gravity technology, which you see this first orb kind of doing around this plane. Mm-hmm. But we're going to see this plane just straight up disappear. And this is where it comes into this complete space-time manipulation technology. Now, we're watching these orbs spin around the plane, but they're moving around with purpose here. They've got this triangle formation, perfect equilateral triangle. They're doing something, you can tell when they're spinning around. It appears to be mapping the plane. Now, we've been able to figure out this seems like they're trying to map the plane to figure out exactly how big the singularity needs to be. And then they shift to this vertical orientation. And this is right before the zap. Now, in this video, it seems kind of weird, but you could imagine that somebody might be able to come up with this. I mean, we're clearly looking at real clouds here. We've also actually shown that these clouds are moving. It's just that they move so slowly because there's only a few seconds of each perspective shift that it's hard to see that the clouds are moving, but I guarantee you they are. I have a video we can show if necessary. We're looking at low altitude cumulus clouds. This plane's flying low. We see smoke coming out of the back of the plane here. The plane is descending, we were able to figure out. This is the accurate turning capabilities of a Boeing 777 on display here. We can also tell this screen is cropped. This is a cropped screen recording. And we can tell that because we can see this mouse coming in from the top right and moving off the top left or bottom left of the screen. We also believe that this is a screen recording because the mouse comes from the top right and it ends and goes back to the top right, as if it's clicking on start recording and then clicking on stop recording at the end. The coordinates in the bottom left, they say NROL 22 in the bottom left, which is the first launch of the SBIR system, Space-Based Infrared Satellite Constellation System, in 2006. And then we can see those coordinates in the bottom left as well. And they only move when the perspective shifts. So this isn't a situation where you're looking down on a satellite that's moving. The way that these systems work is that they actually collect the satellite data, send it to ground-based computers, And then somebody can log into the computer system and say, pull up Nicobar Islands at 1840 UTC. I want to, track this giant area. And then in this case, it looks like what they were doing is they did a cropped screen recording of a giant area, and they cropped out the drone, which is our second video. Yeah, so again, for the people that want to know like who filmed this is the United States assets that are out there, and this satellite capability is completely unknown. We were able to deduce the satellite capabilities from looking at this video and then doing research about the cyber system as well as.
So you're saying the satellite shot this is what you're saying?
So what it really is like Google Earth mixed with
they put them on balloons
software.
Well, yeah, have you ever seen that? Where sometimes they have cameras on balloons, like China has spy satellites that are on balloons. They've landed. Could have been one of those. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, in this case, we believe I'm going to show you another video real quick. We mapped every single satellite that's out there, and we found USA 229. This is a naval ocean surveillance satellite pair. We looked back at all the old trajectories of all the satellites, and turns out this is a satellite with another satellite right next to it. The whole purpose of this satellite is to track boats, planes, and other objects. And we see in the top of the screen here, you can see 1840 UTC, and these satellite pairs staring right down at the coordinates that we've got here. And this is a low Earth orbit satellite pair. So this is roughly 900 kilometers in the sky. Now you can imagine these satellites are shooting sensor data down to ground-based computers. That is how they're able to build this rendered environment where somebody can log in and track objects. We don't live in a world anymore where you look down through the satellite like an Enemy of the State or whatever. I think you're old enough to remember that Will Smith, Gene Hackman movie. Yeah. Now we're in a situation where like we are pulling satellite data all the time. So I'm going to show you the cyber system so you can understand exactly what's at play here. So this satellite system is the cyber system. This is from Lockheed Martin's website right here. Just look at the scans that these satellites are doing here. They can scan the whole world persistently. The first thing this says is global persistent infrared surveillance. So I just wanted to show you this here to see how big these scans are. This one here will show you right here. Look how giant those scans are. So now I'm going to show you the second video as well, just so you can see that we have two videos from two different perspectives. Both of them are actually perfectly in sync.
And has any whistleblower come out real quick, Ashton, before you share the second one? Has there been a whistleblower that has said that they revealed these videos, or how did we get these videos?
So I dug around for people that would have leaked these videos, espionage, willful retention of classified information, and I found Lieutenant Commander Edward C. Lin. I spent a couple of weeks looking around everybody who had ever been charged with this stuff in the time frame, and Edward C. Lin checks every single box. In fact, they obfuscated the charges against him. They tried to get him with espionage and put him in prison for life, and it turned out that he never exchanged anything with anyone from China. The government had to admit it. He flew on spy planes. He had signals intelligence experience, which is how all these assets communicate. The defense argued that the classified information in question was available on the internet. The government would never say what it was. The government was actually so afraid of going to trial because they thought that they would have to show what the classified information was that he leaked. Now, if that classified information was available on the internet, was it these videos? These videos have been confirmed to go back to 2014. The first one was published May 19th, 2014. This one was published June 12th, 2014. So you can imagine a scenario where somebody leaks these videos one by one because they think that the world is going to know the truth, and that Edward C. Lin was potentially, maybe he even thought it was UFOs. I think we're looking at government technology.
So you don't think it's an extraterrestrial? So you think this is a technology that we have here on Earth?
I do not think that this is extraterrestrial. Now, I don't know where this technology comes from. And the more I learn about this, the less certain I am about where this technology potentially comes from. I would argue that if you go back to the Philadelphia experiment, where we claim that this battle cruiser teleported somewhere, they were trying to cloak that. Now, there's some engineers that were on board this plane, and supposedly they were working on advanced cloaking as well. So I would argue the reason why I don't think this is extraterrestrial is because this is an operation. People ask, why is the drone filming this? It's not, they were just randomly filming an airplane and then all of a sudden some orbs come along. This was an operation start to finish. I would argue this is espionage. I think that President Obama is directly implicated in the disappearance of this plane. He was president at the time. Joe Biden might be as well.
Do you think Michelle Obama,
how high it goes up?
Do you think Michelle Obama was born a boy?
Mike Obama, that's one of the funniest. That's one of the most common jokes that we do in in my live streams. But I'm not going to comment on that, honestly.
That's do you think the scans would be able to
See Michelle's penis.
Did you see it? Yeah, did make that.
Yeah, I think that what you said, Raytheon scans or Halliburton scans. Yeah, they could probably.
The Lockheed Martin. Yeah,
Lockheed
no. So
Martin.
satellites in the 60s already could have resolution down to 4 inches. So I'd say might be able to see.
4 inches is fine. 4 inches is that's
enough, right?
It's always enough. Let's not.
It's perfectly average, all right? It's just, it's cold.
A good distance, a good
So
length.
a couple things I want to point out, though, here is that when we're looking at this, so first of all, I believe for sure it's an operation, which would indicate that unless we just randomly caught some aliens zapping the aircraft, that this was an operation from the beginning. I think the United States started the fire. I think that we diverted the plane over to this location. When we look at these orbs here as well, you can see this heat signature. This heat signature is very odd. This is consistent with a magnetic monopole, which is science that was only published in 2015, the year after this plane disappeared. I've talked to Bob Grenier, who's in low energy nuclear reactions, otherwise known as cold fusion. And when he looked at this video, he said, well, I didn't go back in time and make this video. So either this is legit and this is like a black world kind of video that's out there, or, he couldn't explain what else it could possibly be. I don't know how somebody could come up with that, but also you see these orbs converge on the plane. I'm going to go to the slow-mo. At the end of this is the original video, by the way. It has slow-mo of it. So if somebody was faking these videos, why are they adding super slow-mo versions of it? Like where if they made a mistake, it would be obvious. And what you see here is the orbs, they kind of reorient right here where you can see the heat signature disappear, and then they converge on the plane. So I've talked to government engineers, Salvatore Paez, who has these Navy patents that are out there about gravity waves and superconductivity and inertial mass reduction. And he told me that to look into Coulomb's law on Coulomb gauge. And Coulomb's law would say if you take electric charges and you jam them together, your electric force increases exponentially. And when you look at this, it's exactly what the orbs are doing here. So from a scientific perspective, and I challenge any scientists out there to peer review or question this, is that you're seeing these orbs increase their electric charge to such a degree where when this singularity begins to happen, they've broken through something called the Schwinger limit. And the Schwinger limit would say that space becomes nonlinear, which is the idea that you're just ripping through the fabric of space to get to whatever is underneath, the nothingness that's underneath. And this is what I would call the ether, or scientists would say is the quantum fluctuations in the vacuum. Now,
so you believe in the ether? Yeah, I do believe in the ether as well. So you do believe that there's an ether?
Yeah, so we're bringing the ether back. People want to throw this mysticism on the ether. I just think the ether is like the nothingness of space-time, but it's not empty. There's something there. It's like an ocean of energy that we can tap into.
The warp, like Warhammer 40?
Well, Einstein said there had to be an ether, correct?
In 1920, he did come back to it. Now, people will say, oh, the Michelson-Morley experiment. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. They said the Michelson-Morley experiment proves that the ether is not real. Well, I just showed a video of somebody who did another version of it in 2009, and all they did was they flipped it vertically. And then now you can see that there is an interaction from the interferometry experiment where the interference pattern moves when it spins around.
What about
which would indicate that maybe there is an ether.
Well, speaking of the ether, what about the conspiracy that the MH370 actually flew over the ice wall and now it's on a different land?
There's a lot of conspiracies that are out there. And there's ones about the Rothschilds and some people with the patents on board.
So it's like Titanic. So you're telling me it's like modern day Titanic?
I think this plane went to Diego Garcia, and that's where a lot of these conspiracy theories that are out there think
What's
the plane
Diego
went.
Garcia? Wait, what is that? Why don't I know what that is?
A lot of people don't even know Diego Garcia, so I'm going to show this other screenshot right here as well, where if this plane did get warped, teleported, wormholed, whatever it is, then using the right-hand rule in electrical engineering, this plane would be going to the west because we can map out its direction of travel. It's going backwards. And what's to the west is the Maldives. So in the Maldives, there's some islanders that saw the plane in the early morning hours. And Diego Garcia is this military base down here in the British Islands, or British Indian Ocean Territory. It's a very advanced military base. I've been told this is like Area 51 on steroids. So maybe they are hiding these orbs there. Maybe they test the orbs out here. It's a good spot to hide an aircraft. There's nothing nearby. And this is where like Mark Dugain, Catherine T, that witness, as well as Gregory, I forget what his name is, the comedian out there. A lot of people thought this plane went to Diego Garcia. And I actually happen to agree with them. That's the most logical place for this plane to end up. The only reason why the experts discounted it is they couldn't figure out how the plane could get over to the west of these islands where these islanders saw it. Well, if we have some kind of space-time manipulation, teleportation type technology, then this plane shows up over here in the Maldives and then just flies south to Diego Garcia. There was Philip Wood, the American passenger, the adult American passenger. There was a weird picture that's all black that gets posted on 4chan like a week after this plane disappears. And it says he's being held prisoner somewhere and he doesn't know where. And it turns out they looked at the EXIF data on it. And the EXIF data has coordinates for Diego Garcia as well. So while I can't prove that's where the plane went, throw out all the other conspiracies. That's where I'm putting my money. I'm going to say that's where the plane went. I'm going to tell the American government, let me in there and look. The last piece of evidence I want to show related to that or talk about related to that is there was 19 family members that signed a joint statement begging the government to look into the fact that the cell phones were still ringing for up to 4 days later. One of them even proved it on television. Now, cell phones, contrary to the CNN experts, do not ring when they're underwater or turned off, or if you're out in the Andromeda galaxy or wherever people think this plane went. So I don't think this plane went to another dimension. I think that this plane simply we used some very hyper advanced exotic technology on it, and this plane ended up in Diego Garcia.
So it went through like a wormhole that we created, basically, and then it can just teleport there. I mean, I know you don't know, but that's just you think that this wormhole can only send it to places here on Earth, I'm guessing?
That's exactly what I think. And if you want to look at this here, well, why are there Defense Intelligence Agency reference documents? We found on the internet from 2010. One of them is called Warp Drive, Dark Energy, and Manipulation of Extra Dimensions.
This
one actually talks about the idea of the ether. And here's another one for you if you guys are really ready to have your mind blown.
Yes.
This one's called Traversable Wormholes, Stargates, and Negative Energy.
Wait, what? I think I've actually read this document with the Stargates. I remember I saw a YouTube video about this. Wait, that's insane.
So the question is, why do these even exist? And I would argue that these exist because the government now has plausible deniability. The government comes out and eventually someone exposes this and go, we've got this space-time manipulation technology. And they go, oh, well, we weren't lying about it. We had these papers out there. You just didn't think it was real, And the people that write these are like people like Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, and other engineers that work directly with the government and work on private labs. So part of the reason why I'm so convinced this is real is I've been interviewing some of these people. I interviewed Salvatore Pais, who's a Navy engineer. I interviewed my buddy Dave Rossi, who's a DoD private contractor engineer who works in private labs as well. And they pretty much just said, like, we've seen this stuff in labs. It's just the public just has no idea that it's out there. Like these papers, one of them talks about dark energy and the one of them talks about negative energy. Those are the exact things that we need for a wormhole or warp drive to be possible. And when we look at that drone video, when we see that cold black event happen, that's an endothermic event. It's like the exact opposite of an explosion. It's an absorption of energy. I think we're looking at negative energy, dark energy when we see that happen. That's why I think that the ether is real as well, and why I'm all in on this idea of free energy is that I think these videos are the first ever in the history of man, public videos that show a wormhole, but also just show negative energy, like rip away the fabric of space-time and what's left? The negative energy underneath. So that's my personal belief on this. And I'm not trying to convince everybody else out there. Like, I know this sounds crazy as hell. Like I'm a normal guy and I never would have believed in this as possible like a year ago. But I think that if anybody looks through the evidence like I have over these last 9 months or so, you'll realize that this science is real. Like there's a guy named Thomas Bearden, who I never knew who he was. He was also a government engineer, aerospace engineer, died in 2022. And I found a video from 1985 where he's talking about a cold explosion. That's exactly what we're seeing in this video. And he says the way you do it is that they messed up Maxwell's equations. He's like the father of electrical engineering. And when we reduced his equations, we lost something called the scalar potential. And I like to do this quick example for people what a scalar potential is they would say in conventional physics, when we reduce Maxwell's equation, you pull on both sides of this rubber band, that there's nothing left. They would say, well, it didn't move left or right, so there's no force left. And this is essentially saying getting rid of the scalar potential. Now I can pull twice as hard, and they would still say, well, there's nothing left because you're pulling equally on both sides. Now eventually I can pull so hard this rubber band's going to snap. And what that is that's the scalar potential here. Now imagine that I were to take this same scalar potential, instead of a rubber band, I'm going to do that to space-time. I'm going to yank on space-time in both directions until it snaps. That's the same idea as gravity, is that when you're pulling on both sides, it's not that there's nothing left. It's that you're now manipulating the interaction between the ether and our reality. Gravity, that's what the suction is, or mass on space-time. And with respect to this, then, if you can do that with a beam and you can shoot this scalar potential Thomas Beard would say you cross the streams like in Ghostbusters.
Oh,
Yeah,
If you cross the
don't
stream,
do that.
Yeah.
yeah, don't cross the streams. But here's the thing is that you can then create a cold explosion at a distance, or you can create a regular explosion at a distance, depending on how you polarize it. So one of those is a directed energy weapon. And then the other one, the cold explosion, is an absorption of energy where it's going to go somewhere else. And I am argue that if you were to like take that technology, the very earliest iteration would be you take like a radar kind of beam and you would shoot them up into the sky. And if you advance it further, you would put it on a satellite. And then you have your satellite shooting down at the sky. Now, if you advance it even further than that, I would say you have some floaty orbs that now can have the beams on them. And you can create a triangle pattern and shoot them all directly into one another to create a 0-point system. And then you can create an energy density or remove energy from a location, just like we see in those videos. So that's the reason why I'm so convinced that what we're seeing here is essentially some kind of wormhole, or they call it macroscopic phase conjugation, where you have your orbs over here and they cross the streams like in Ghostbusters, and then poof, now the plane's over here. And it's not over in the Andromeda galaxy. It's not in another dimension. It's just somewhere else on Earth.
So do we have to owe Don Lemon an apology when he said?
Yeah, because he did.
He said the whole black world, like it was a miniature black hole.
That's what he said.
Everyone, I've seen that reference. So I mean,
we're sorry, Don Lemon. It was a government-created black hole.
Who would have thought Don Lemon would have been?
Here's the funny part about that. Like Don Lemon talking about it. We also have Mike Harris, he was a consultant for Motorola, which is where Freescale Semiconductors broke off of, says that the plane fell into an interdimensional portal. We've also got Joseph P. Farrell does an interview like 2 weeks later, or a week or two later, and he says that he heard the United States use some super weapon on it. And he basically figured it all out. He even mentions teleportation as being a possibility. And everybody just thought that's silly. But now in 2024, we've got wormhole papers out there. We've got this idea of ER equals EPR, which is like a wormhole being equivalent to quantum entanglement or quantum teleportation. And so now we can actually start to wrap our brains around like, wait, can this technology really be possible? We might owe Don Lemon an apology, to be honest with you.
Wow. Okay, we've talked about a lot, and we have to let you go very shortly because the show's almost over. But Kim.com, a guy I like a lot. He was a friend of yours. He was, gassing you up, tweeting about it. But now has he changed his mind? What's the latest with Kim.com? Because I do like Kim.
Yeah, I thought I liked him as well. And it feels like he kind of stabbed me in the back on this. Like, I don't know what his deal was. He was never like a UFO guy or any of this stuff, but he connected himself to me all of a sudden. And then this cloud picture came out where we've ruled out any types of cloud pictures being in these videos. We got 2 videos from 2 different angles. We've got moving and evolving clouds. Yeah. We can see the clouds in both videos that line up as well. And we actually have 3-dimensional accurate lighting when this zap happens in the satellite video. But that apparently wasn't good enough for him. So he thought, okay, these videos can't be real. We had a $150,000 bounty for a hoaxer to come forward. In fact, if people want me to admit these videos are fake, then all they have to do is find the hoaxer. And if this cloud picture that they claim is out there is real, then the cloud picture, they should be able to figure out who bought that cloud picture, because it doesn't exist on any torrents. We couldn't find it anywhere on the internet, at least back when these videos were made. So Kim.com thought the videos were fake. I say, fine, move on with your life, Kim.com. He's not an expert on this. He never did any investigative work into it. But there's been a lot of other people, like the Hodge twins have been retweeting me.
I love it. The Hodge twins, speaking of the Hodge twins, I'm going on their show June 11th, but just a shameless plug. But awesome. Go ahead. No, I just bring up Kim.com because, he is a very famous guy. And I know that he was like on your side, and then I see him doing about face. I'm kind of like, obviously, Kim.com is a smart guy. I'm not saying he's an expert in this, but, he's a pretty smart guy in general.
Well, let me say this as well. If these videos were real, what would the government do to hide them? I think they would go to any lengths to hide them. And I think that Kim.com is facing extradition to the United States for his mega upload situation with that. They also control his money, he told me as well. So I'm not directly accusing him of anything, but anybody the United States controls that is trying to say these videos are fake, take it with a huge grain of salt, because especially if people like Barack Obama are implicated. I mean, Ketanji Brown Jackson, current Supreme Court Justice, she's the one that actually threw out the lawsuit in the United States because she said that, well, it should be tried in Malaysia, but it was an American plaintiff, the Philip Wood, his brothers, they were suing Boeing, which is an American company. Like, you could argue that it had really strong grounds to be seen in the United States. There would have been billions of dollars at stake. Instead, they throw it out, throw it in Malaysia, throw it to China, and the families get like $30,000 each.
That's all they got was $30,000 from the airline, from Boeing? That's all they were paid?
No, they not even from Boeing. They've got thrown out from Malaysian Airlines. So when you get, we don't have the same kind of laws in Malaysia that you have in the United States. They would have got millions in the United States. In Malaysia, they got $30,000.
Yeah, we're gonna call Ian Miles Chong to get his. Okay, well the show's almost over. Ashton, tell the people where they can find you and support you.
Alex, there's a $20 super chat. Real quick question, just like, what if MH370 was captured and taken by UFOs rather than black op groups, like some aliens retaliated against?
He already
black
said
ops?
that it was not aliens.
Yeah,
though.
I just had to read that, but it's Aiden. But yeah, we don't think it was aliens.
And people can believe if they think it's aliens, that's fine. I don't really care. I'm like 100% sure it's the United States government, but I'm not trying to tell people what to believe out there. A lot of people want it to be aliens, but you can find my work at JustXAshton on Twitter. You can find it on YouTube. There's a lot more evidence that goes along with this as well.
We need to have you back on. I didn't realize the audience is loving this. We got to have you back on. An hour is not long enough. I feel bad to Julio.
And we can talk about free energy next time as well. You know, I want to prove it to you and I want to prove it to other people. So if you're interested, let's talk again.
Yes, and if you drink coffee, please go purchase some CastBrew Coffee. It's there's a sponsor of our show. If you like Tim Pool, you need to go on Tim Pool's show. I'll try to hook that up. All right, Ashton, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. We're gonna have you on again soon. The audience loves this. I want to get more. I want to get deeper and get into all this free energy ether talk. It's really interesting. So thank you, Ashton. Appreciate all the hard work you're doing. And listen, you're gonna get haters the bigger you get. So you just have to learn how to deal with them. It's just part of it.
I just call them fans.
Yeah, it's just part of it. You know what I mean? All right, Ashton, talk to you soon.
Peace, man. Thanks.
All right, guys, go to CastBrew.com, born of a desire for a bold coffee and a need to build companies that support American values. CastBrew Coffee provides an alternative to the faceless corporate ecosystem and fosters a parallel economy that actually supports freedom. Try my own personal blend. It's Alex Stein's Primetime Grind. It's a dark roast, 100% organic ground coffee with 2 times the amount of caffeine. It's the strongest coffee known to man. Additionally, CastBrew Coffee is great for your skin and can be used as a face mask. However, please don't publicly post yourself doing it because we don't want you to get accusations of doing blackface. Just visit CastBrew.com, promo code PRIMETIME to save 10% off your purchase. CastBrew.com, promo code PRIMETIME. Okay, we didn't even get to talk to you, Julio. You got to come back on.
Did you put your face on the bag so
Tim Pool did this,
and you could accuse the faceless corporations? Is that what the...
Well, that is kind of funny, a faceless corporation with my face on it. But no, there's a conspiracy. The last 2 things Tim named coffee after died. His cat and his favorite rooster. And then I'm the 3rd person he's named a coffee after. So there's a conspiracy that he's trying to kill me. And he flew me on a Boeing 737 MAX 8 jet.
I'm going to D.C. this weekend to cover a protest, and I saw my flight was a 747 MAX.
Are you flying United or
no,
Southwest?
American. No, I'm flying American.
Oh.
So I changed my flight to so it's on a... I mean, you're screwed either way because it's either the airline or the air traffic controllers or the ground crew.
Yeah, we're actually doing a great documentary. The documentary crew, Blaze Originals, is doing a documentary about the FAA and how they're basically using like DEI to make DIE to hire, to virtue signal. Instead of hiring air traffic controllers based on merit, they're literally hiring them on their skin color. And it's funny because we were with the documentary crew, I can't even speak, and we were doing a documentary on PPP fraud. And we were in the plane, and the turbulence was so bad. And the guys that did the documentary crew, I'm like, gosh, I just hate it when it's turbulent like this, even though I fly every freaking weekend. They go, Alex, don't worry about it. This is the safest part of the flight. It's just, if we're going to die, it's going to be when the air traffic controllers accidentally smash us into another plane.
Well, I mean, my takeaway from this is that Warhammer 40K is real.
Okay.
Because there's the warp, there's the warp drive.
There's this guy, RV Truth, on the internet.
So therefore, Cadia stands.
Well, I'm saying, he always says this saying, and I love it, truth in the movies, lies in the news. Because, they kind of tell us it's predictive programming. They kind of, revelation.
That's why I'm a huge fan of Civil War, the movie.
Yeah,
gotta get ready.
They're gonna have it. Do you want it? Are you pro Civil War so you can go cover it?
I'm not. Well, it's not that I'm pro Civil War. I just think that we're on a trajectory. Not to get too much into it, but I think we're on a trajectory right now, and it's like, well, we're here, so might as well go out and cover it.
Yeah, I have to call Julio out because he said something. He goes, "I'm so excited for Donald Trump to be president, so I can have more protests to cover."
I will admit I'm a single issue voter. Will it cause riots? Like funding to Ukraine, it doesn't cause riots. Okay, it doesn't matter. Funding to Israel, it does cause riots. So let's go ahead and do it. So look, it's job security. Come on.
Okay, real quick, we can go a couple minutes over, but I go to a lot of these Palestinian protests as well. I know you go there, and you've been to BLM. I've been to BLM protests. I've been to trans protests. The tensity and the idea that they want something to pop off. I guess I was at BLM riots in Dallas where a guy got hit with a sword. It wasn't as bad, but my point is, I think these people at the Palestinian protests are going to hurt somebody one of these days. Do you think something bad's going to happen at one of these protests very soon?
Well, yeah, because
it's all Philadelphia.
Well, yeah. Well, the White House was attacked twice at these giant protests, and that's why there's one in D.C. this Saturday. That's what I'm going to cover for Blaze, and they're specifically calling to surround the White House.
The Palestinian
side, yeah, they're specifically telling because they didn't use that language in the previous two big
didn't markets. Trump go in the basement, one time?
Well, that was BLM, but yeah. And that's why, I mean, again, not to go too much off a tangent, but when people talk about January 6th, which I covered, that was a riot and that was crazy, but the White House was attacked that year by the far left to the point where they have to move the president to make sure that he's safe. I mean, I don't get it, but and it's fine. It's fine. I don't care what the cause is. It's just that's why I like the Civil War movie, because the main character Joel, who's played by the guy who played Pablo Escobar, he's watching the gunfire. He just goes, "I'm so sexually aroused right now," and I'm like, "Oh, that's me." That's
that you get sexually aroused by protests.
I get excited.
How excited? Did your genitals get engorged with blood?
Look, man, I just when you're faced with the new sensation,
that's a Latino thing.
You got to lean right into it.
You can do that because whenever I'm scared, I could never ever get erect. If I'm scared, I have to be very comfortable in a very safe spot.
Well, see, and that's why. Well, but it's more of a Marine Corps thing, I would say. You just ask an average Marine, and they'll be like, "Hell yeah!"
So you get a fear boner? Is that what you're saying?
I just say it's excitement.
Okay, good, because this is a children's show, and we wouldn't ever want to say a term like that. Okay. Julio, we're gonna have you back on because I'm sorry, the Malaysian Airlines guy, Ashton.
It was very interesting. It was very interesting to hear.
And the chat was liking it, so I had to keep him on. But we're gonna talk to you again soon. You're gonna be here. We're gonna need you, on set a lot to talk about all the coverage that you're doing for the Blaze. I'm so happy to be your colleague. And tell the people how they can find you and support you before we go.
They can follow my Twitter at Julio_Rosas11. Obviously, they can find me here at The Blaze. I also have my Substack, mostlypeaceful.live, where I just do some analysis and other pieces as well. So they can go ahead and subscribe to that.
Everybody needs to go support our boy Julio Rosas! I said that right, didn't I?
Well,
Julio Rosas! You say Julio. They don't pronounce J's.
No. Well, no, they do, but we put an H on it.
Julio Rosas! Sound like a soccer player.
Go! Just fucking.
Was your family disappointed that you didn't become a professional soccer player?
I have to talk to him about that. I'm not. I did play soccer when I was younger. But
I knew it.
Yeah.
How did I know it?
No, look, I know.
I know.
Look. Stereotypes exist for a reason. I am a huge fan of beans. My back gets wet every morning when I take a shower. Please. So it's. Look, I'm just saying.
Don't do that. We're gonna get kicked off YouTube. I love beans too, though.
They're great.
Yeah, they are delicious, and they have protein. All right, guys, we end the show the same way every time with that freestyle finale. So, DJ, hit that beat. Yo, yo, yo. Julio Rosas eating all the beans, getting that burrito for the crack fiends, and he's getting really gases, passing it all day. Do we know what happened to the plane that day? You got a government orb taking it to Diego Garcia, but we're with Julio Rosas, two Latinos causing waves. I'm doing this cause I'm brave and I'm a pimp and I'm paid. Go follow my boy Julio, and it's time to go cause I'm prime time and I'm not very slow cause I'm fast and I'm hauling ass and I'm teaching class cause I love to do it every day. Hanging with my homie Julio Rosas.
Down by the schoolyard.
Down by the schoolyard. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, bitches. I love you. Peace. Good night.